Well, hello and welcome to the Print Live. Today we are going to discuss whether the lawyer's body can justify, the violence against the Delhi police officials or whatever happened in the last 4 to 5 days in the state capital. Just to give you a quick recap of what transpired in Delhi from Saturday onwards. In Saturday in Tisazari Court, it was a nice sunny afternoon when the entire city was engulfed with a haze of smog, and everyone was just talking about how air pollution was wreaking a havoc in our lives. It is at that point of time that there was also impending bar elections, or district court bar associations that were having their elections in the respective district courts. This incident in Tisazari court actually took place when group of three lawyers, to be very specific, entered there with their car in a parking zone, which is generally allocated to the police vans. Let's be very clear that the area is not officially designated for parking of the police vans. It is only a tacit understanding between the Delhi police and the lawyer body that whichever vehicles come in that area is parked only police vans come and park their vehicles in that area, which they use to bring the detainees in the court. It was around 4 p.m. when these group of lawyers came with their car and parked their car there, and they told the police official that they have an urgent court hearing in the case, and hence they have to really move fast to the court. They even offered the Delhi police official that a parking guy would soon come and park the vehicle somewhere else. However, the police official did not budge from his point that the vehicle needs to be moved. Rest is history. A verbal altercation started. Soon, the police officials maintained that they were assaulted by the group of lawyers, and in self-defense, they had to open fire. And in that firing incident, one of the lawyers got seriously injured. So that was the starting point of this tussle between Delhi police and the lawyer body. Everyone thought that this incident would soon die down as just another tussle which keeps happening in the state capital of Delhi, but that was not to be so. The next morning, there were rampant incidents of lawyers manhandling police officials all across the city, whether it's Karkarduma or Saket or Tisazari or Patiala House Court. There were also incidents on videos of how certain lawyers were slapping and throwing their helmets at a particular body of policemen, and how policemen were retaliating back. This was also followed by a clarion call of the Bar Council of India and several other district bar associations, who said that they would cease to work in the courts from Monday if an FIR was not lodged against the concerned police officials. And they also said that the strict action needs to be taken against the Delhi police officials. However, no FIR was registered until the evening of the incident, that's on Saturday. Just going forward from there, yesterday there was a massive protest in the Delhi police headquarters right here in ITO, where in thousands of policemen gathered together and said that they would not work unless and until protection was granted to them. They also said that protectors need protection. That ThePrint had done extensive coverage of the protest yesterday through our colleague Ananya Bhardwaj, who also reported that policemen had their own version to say about how they're abused and how they're humiliated at the hands of the lawyers or the advocate community day in and day out when they go about discharging their duties in the court. It was also followed by several statements by the Delhi police officials in the media that they want an end to this conflict by proper compensation, by the proper registration of FIRs, and also by strict action against the lawyers who were involved in this incident. However, this incident took a very different turn today morning when again the lawyer body said that we were supposed to continue working from today. However, they said that they will not continue working from today. And in fact, they postponed the working hours till tomorrow, because they said that they have not got justice, because the way the police officials conducted themselves at ITO yesterday and threatened the lawyer bodies and the advocate community, they said that this was a very shameful part of this tussle between the Delhi police officials and the lawyer body. So today this was just a recap for you, and today we will discuss whether at all the Delhi lawyer body can justify the violence against the Delhi police officials or not. you know, even as we speak, there was a body of lawyers just a couple of hours ago who had manhandled certain civilians and certain police officials also in the Alwar district. So even as the Print spoke to certain reputed senior lawyers, they categorize these incidents as stray incidents. So we'll get to those points in a couple of minutes. One of the questions to us is, do you really think what the lawyers did to the police was correct or not? Well, Pia, when you say about the question of whatever the lawyers did to the police was correct or not, we also have to we also need to know what exactly happened there. So as I just told you that there was a verbal altercation and there was manhandling of the police officials, and the police officials retaliated back. Now there are two arguments to put forth, one from the lawyer body, one from the police's side. The lawyer body would obviously contend that there was excessive use of force. Now, this is a principle of law, and this is something which is there and understood by the police officials also in the protocol handbook, that a gun or a firing is only done when the other party who is there in front of them has double the force of what they have, and in order to contain that harm, they need to use the last resort of bullets. Apart from bullets, according to the protocol handbook, they are supposed to do, warning firings. They're also supposed to take out their lathis and batons for charging, not beat them up, but just to show that, they're gearing up to probably take defense and use certain tactics to defend themselves. However, nothing of that sort really happened. There was another argument on behalf of the lawyer community was also that these advocates who were beaten up were directly taken to a police lockup. So certain questions are being raised that whether at all this entire move of taking the lawyers directly to the police lockup without the intervention of a judicial magistrate in the first place indeed violated several provisions of the law. However, the police body maintains that it is the lawyers who ignited the fight or the verbal altercation. The Delhi police officials' statement is gaining more and more strength over the last couple of days, also because of the mistake of what the lawyer bodies are committing all across the city. If you see, whether you see Kargat, Dumati, Sazari, Saket, there have been stray incidents of police personals being manhandled. As we speak, there is also incidents happening in Lucknow, Alwar, where police officials have been, manhandled, and lawyers are being seen as some sort of a goon character in this entire story. So this is the two-side story of how you now it depends on you how you want to see this as a debate as to who the arguments of which party really weighs in more in this entire spectacle that took place. Will the compensation be enough to quell the problem? See, in Indian jurisprudence, if you see, compensation has always been given as a precedent, also because to prove the fact that the state cares. So when this compensation of 25,000 rupees was offered, it also meant that the state cares for the family's well-being. Considering the fact that the police official was injured and he was serious, but however he was alive, there might have been some variation in the payment of compensation in this case, but certainly that amount showed that the state heeded to the request of the Delhi police, who went on a mass protest yesterday. So indeed, that if we talk about quenching certain requests or demand, it would be that. However, I'm sure it would not cover the medical expenses, or if you're talking about the post recovery trauma, etc., that indeed would be much at a much higher value than 25,000 rupees. Nikunja, should an independent commission be set up to ascertain the level of punishment necessary? Well, Nikunja, an independent committee has been set up by the Delhi High Court under the aegis of Justice Retired SP Garg, who is also going to work in collaboration with the Intelligence Bureau Chief and the CBI Chief to find out whether at all this incident was pre-planned, or the police indeed went out of bounds in this case, or that it was the lawyers who instigated and provoked the police and assaulted them. So this is something which we have to wait for the commission's report. However, just to inform our viewers, that sources have informed us that over 26 policemen and 6 lawyers have testified their statements before the committee already. And some of the statements clearly depict as to how the sequence of events unfolded in the Sazari court, and why and how the altercation spilled out between the two bodies of lawyers and police officers. Now, Mohana, we have a question from: why do lawyers get immunity within the court premises? See, there is no particular explicit law which grants immunity to lawyers within the court premises. However, there is a tacit understanding that when a lawyer is functioning within the court premises, if there is a direct threat to his life, then automatically a judicial magistrate or a lawyer or a court is within a hand's reach, and that is why perhaps there is a certain kind of distance between the lawyer or the person who wants to harm the person who is practicing law. As soon as he steps out of the court premises, obviously his vulnerability increases, and hence he becomes more prone to attack. But an explicit law, legislation, or a rule in CPC, IPC, CRPC, or in the advocate's book granting him immunity within the court premises is certainly not true. When we talk about immunity, we also mean immunity from legal proceedings against them. So let's be very clear on this, that if a lawyer commits any kind of a heinous offense, if a lawyer commits suppose he beats someone up, he commits a robbery, he commits offense of rape in some washrooms of the court, for us to say. There was a case many years ago. Then in such a situation, indeed cases are taken upon them. If we remember the incident of Saket Court, where a woman lawyer was molested by another lawyer in her chamber, which is very well within the court's premises, the case was taken up, and the case is still pending, and witness testaments are happening as we speak today. So there is no immunity as such. But when we talk about lawyers being, because obviously they're more closer to the legal remedies which is available within the court. We have a question from Ritvik Basu. Do you think the police or a section of the force? Well, Mr. Basu, when we talk about political motivation, the aspersion can be cast on both the communities, whether it's the lawyer or the police. When we talk about political motivations to the police, yesterday everyone was waiting for the Home Ministry to step in and to quell this unprecedented protest that was taking part in ITO, which has completely paralyzed the city, for us to say, because even Haryana and other police associations had extended their support to the police protest, and they were even going to come down to Delhi to partake in the protest. So that was one aspect which the people, which everyone did really highlight. However, the late evening communique which was released, which said that there was a joint meeting of the Government of India with the Commissioner of Police, and how they decided to grant compensation, and how they have decided the police forces to resume back its duty, etc., showed that at the end of the day, even though it was late, they indeed got back into the track. When we talk about the lawyer bodies being politically motivated or having some other ulterior motives, that would be slightly a misplaced notion in this case, because if we see the CCTV footages, if we see what is happening in the courtroom on that particular day, you would see that the lawyers were only into a verbal altercation with the police officials at that point of time. However, there are indeed certain kind of political affiliations of several district bar associations or groups or bodies. One thing that came down very explicitly in this entire controversy was that there is no single leadership within the district and the state bar associations. You would see there were different resolutions which were being passed by the Bar Council of India, by the Karkarduma State Bar, Karkarduma District Bar Association, Saket Bar Association, Tis Hazari Bar Association, Delhi High Court Bar Association. So all of these people had their own resolutions, had their own meetings. So I think this event also highlighted the fact that the lawyer body needs to come down under one unified umbrella to address the grievances, because that only adds to more confusion if we keep outside the topic of political motivation in the case. There is a question from Rishikesh. Why is the center not taking any direct part in this situation? I think, Rishikesh, I have just answered your question in the previous one, that the Union Ministry of Home Affairs indeed was extremely late in taking stock of the unprecedented police protest happening in the ITO yesterday. However, there was a communique which was released last evening which showed that the Government of India, in consultation with the Commissioner of Police, etc., had come down to 4 to 5 points to address this entire issue. However, you correctly point out, and we must speak about this, that there is an impending pressing need of police reforms in India. Whether it be the Law Commission report or several Delhi High Court or Supreme Court judgments, police reforms is something of a subject which is still pending and which needs thorough deliberation by a committee of experts. And yesterday's protest, in which the police officers were seen to be explicitly threatening the lawyer community, there were certain police officers who even said that, killing is no big deal for us, it's only a bullet which takes to silence down these group of lawyers, etc., only shows their level of understanding of a critical situation, of an altercation that takes place, or the last measure of resort that one must take to, or the kind of force that one must use when, or the use of improportionate force, etc. So these are the topics which we talk about when we talk about police reforms. So this is something which needs to be deliberated upon, and this again, this ugly episode has reminded all of us that that's one long overdue which the government of India needs to look at the earliest. We have a question: is this a representation of how the law and law enforcement in India often butt heads? Yeah, it's a very interesting question that, law and law enforcement agencies often are at loggerheads. To give you a small recap to the viewers, in 2016, if you all remember, there was this huge Delhi police versus lawyer tussle. It was the case of Mr. Suneja back then. I think it was in Karkarduma district court only, when this lawyer was in civil clothes and he wanted to enter the courtroom premises, and the Delhi police official said that, I won't allow you. And he said that I have a court hearing coming up, I have my blazer in my car, this is my ID, you were supposed to let me inside. So he said that we will not let you in, and then in Hindi, which I'll translate to you in English, he said that you come here, I'll take out all of your, all advocacy from you. And after that, he was humiliated, he was beaten up, and he was tortured. That was not it. When the entire lawyer community got up in protest against such a brutality, it was the then Bar Association president of Karkarduma, Mr. Ayas Saroha, who was also assaulted by the Delhi police in that incident. And that case still goes on. So, if we talk about, many people are remembering how Kiran Bedi was a messiah for the Delhi police, and, we saw posters yesterday. But there was also an ugly incident when, a police official was arrested for getting inside to a woman's hostel room, and then it was Kiran Bedi who justified the arrest as the arrest of a thief, and the entire lawyer body got against the police commissioner. So that was also an ugly episode between both the bodies way back in 1980s. In 2016 also the clash was there. In 2019 also the clash is here. So it only shows that it is not something new. The altercation probably is perhaps more deep rooted in our system as of now, and the print is also going to give you a publish a story soon on this side of the altercation, which we'll be glad if you could read. There's also a question as to, have there been any reaction from the judges across the country? No, unfortunately, judges are not supposed to react to such incidents in the country unless they're hearing about the case. So when the Delhi High Court judge today also heard about the case, they said that there is no question of reviewing the judgment, in which they have formed a committee, etc., to look into the case. They said that the committee function, and let the committee decide as to who was guilty in this case, and accordingly the Delhi High Court will take a decision. When we talk about whether judges react to a particular a story, they are not supposed to react, because judges are only supposed to speak through their judgments. So I think that was all. I have answered most of your questions. If there are any more, do pitch it in our YouTube or Twitter channel, and we will be happy to answer you in statements there. We'll be back shortly with another live. This is Debayan Roy, principal correspondent for The Print. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing videos.